Hi, I wish you could have been there. A call I received from Joe. Joe had just lost his biggest customer. Now, I think it's important to realize that that customer represented over 40% of Joe's revenue. Joe was stressed. Joe was angry. He was frustrated. He realized that this was always a problem. He probably should have had some proactive sales efforts to help mitigate and minimize that risk, but he just never really got around to it. He just hoped that today would never come. But unfortunately, hope isn't a very good strategy. And today did come for Joe. And now he's facing some really difficult, challenging decisions. Some of the topics that we're going to talk about here today could have helped Joe stay out of that situation altogether. It can help you and your business not only stay out of that situation similar to Joe's, but more importantly, grow and thrive. So please join me in a great discussion here on our top sales drivers that businesses need to consider for growth. My name's Tom Gardner. I'm the Chief Community Officer with Sales Acceleration. As we start our conversation here, who is Sales Acceleration? Now, founded just over 13 years ago, we're proud to be seen as the leader in the fractional sales organization across the nation, across the world. We have north of 200 advisors throughout the United States, UK, and Canada. We're proud of the impact that we've had with our various clients and the revenue growth our engagements has represented. And we continue to invest in our organization and have been seen by Inc. 5000 as a fastest growing company in our sector. But what is it that we actually do? In essence, through the implementation of our certified sales operating management system and the guidance of our fractional sales leaders, we help organizations build a path for growth, build a path to success. And over 98% of our clients increase revenue post engagement with an average of 32% average increase. We'll dive into a lot of these different scenarios today and how this actually plays out, but focusing on the sales strategy and the infrastructure, putting the right team in place to help execute on these plans, and then providing the right guidance and leadership from a sales management standpoint to help bring this all together for organizations to thrive and grow. How does this actually play out? Now, the data I want to show you here on these next couple slides, this isn't our opinion. These are business owners that have self-reported on the state of their sales organization. And as you can see, a very large percentage of companies out there do not feel good about their sales infrastructure and being positioned for growth. In fact, 76% have rated themselves as poor in this category. Let's dive into this a little bit deeper. You can see in the upper left-hand corner, 86% of businesses self-reported that they are struggling with sales strategy. Sales strategy represents how do they position themselves within the industry? Who are their competitors? What are the differentiators between them and all the others in the marketplace? Do they have a value proposition that is actually resonating with their clients or prospective clients? And is that understood by all their teammates? In the upper right-hand corner, you see organizations that are struggling with the sales organization, meaning do they have the right people in the right roles? Do they have a hiring plan to continue to build on that? Are they training and onboarding new reps in the appropriate way? And do they have clearly defined roles and responsibilities so people know exactly what they're supposed to be focusing on? In the bottom right-hand corner, 91% of businesses struggle in the sales analysis section. Do we have goals and expectations that are agreed upon and shared amongst my organization? Do we have metrics that are measuring our progress towards accomplishing those goals? Do we have incentive programs or compensation programs that are rewarding the types of behavior that we want out of our team? And then the bottom left-hand corner, sales methodology. How do we have our business set up, our sales territories? What type of coverage do we have for new or existing businesses? Do we have documented processes that are followed by all? And are we leveraging technology like a CRM system to help bring this all together? The business owners out there are concerned about the state of their organization. But how does this actually play out? Some of these next few phrases may sound familiar to you. You might have even stated a few of these on your own in your own business. Some of them are pretty straightforward. Others might be code. But let's talk about this first one. My sales have been the same level for the last couple of years. Now, that's not necessarily bad. It's not positive, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. But unless this is by design, this is going to present some challenges for businesses. Now, this one's a different look. My sales have been going the wrong direction. They're declining. They're going backwards. Now, unless some decisions are made or changes are made, this is going to be problematic. At some point, this is not sustainable. There's Joe's scenario, right? Too much of my annual revenue comes from just a couple clients. Now, this typically doesn't happen overnight. It's usually a customer that you do a great job with and they give you more business. And again, you and your team do a great job again, and that business continues to grow and grow. And at some point in time, you have that play out over one or two customers, and now you're in a big pickle. You have a challenge that too much of your revenue is concentrated on just a couple clients. Now I can't predict my sales. This usually is one that's a little bit of a code. It might be I just don't have the windows into my business. I don't have the dashboard views to see what my sales team's doing. Perhaps your sales team's doing whatever they want, and we don't have really any defined process or clarity on what those roles actually are. And business owners and leaders are challenged in this capacity. We see this quite often with businesses that are transitioning from an owner led organization. Too much of their sales depends on them as a business owner. Now, why is this a problem? Well, you may hear things like others can't sell the way that I sell, or others can't get the results that I get. Well, if too much is dependent upon the owner, they can't get away from the business. They're too entrenched in the business. Think about it from an exit standpoint. At some point, if that business owner wants to ultimately leave the organization and transition out, how can they do so if so much is actually focused on them and funneled through them as the owner? I can't find the right salesperson. Well, this could be representation of, do we have a high turnover in our sales role? Do we have a good hiring plan or not? How do we evaluate skill assessment that we're looking for the roles that we have? Do we have a compensation plan that rewards the right type of behavior? There are good salespeople out there. So if we can't find the right salesperson, that's what's playing out in your organization, what's contributing to that. So hearing how these statements may actually play out, you're seeing what those symptoms actually look like. What should organizations do? What can we focus on? And how can we make sure that we're positioned for success and growth the way that we want? Let's start with the first here, sales strategy. Ideal client profiles. Who do we want to focus on? So if I would ask, think of your top 20 customers. How would you define those top 20 customers? By default, many organizations turn around and say it's the ones with the largest revenue. But I challenge you to think of it beyond just revenue. How about margin or profit? What are some of the other characteristics, both demographic and geographic? What's the size of that company? What industries are they in? Where are they located? How about some of the other details, like psychographic details along how do you interact with your customers? What's that relationship like? Do they provide additional referrals or introductions to other businesses to help you grow and be successful and vice versa? Do they pay you on time? What does that relationship look like for your top customers? And how can you go find more of those top customers in that same kind of characteristics? Are there cross sale opportunities? Is another consideration. Do you have opportunities to sell or leverage that relationship to open doors to additional customers? Look at your ideal client profiles with a variety of different lenses on them to help define who exactly do you want to target in your growth and expansion. As importantly, who do you not want to be doing business with? I know that sounds counterintuitive in many cases, but not every customer is an ideal fit in both directions. So, as much as we want to focus our concentration in this discussion here so far on who's my ideal client profile, It's also who do we not want to do business with? Think of buyer personas. Now, a buyer persona is going to be a written description and a representation of the people that we actually sell to within that ideal client profile. Now, it's not just one person. The days of one person actually making that buying decision are long gone. You're seeing now three, four, five, six different people that are involved in those buying decisions to varying degrees. So, what roles are those people in? What role do they hold within the organization? Buyer personas should think of things like what do they care about? What's important to them? What are their priorities in their role? What's their day like? Are they risk adverse or do they seek cutting edge technology? This is important because it helps you understand what points you want to emphasize through the sales process. Are you going to emphasize your new latest and greatest cutting edge product or service? Or are you going to emphasize your proven history and reliability? So, understanding who we are selling to within an organization and how they prioritize not only their days and their tasks, what's important to them, and what do they seek from a relationship is a critical step for your sellers. Now, think about sales stories. Stories resonate. Tell the story before what life was like before your product or service. And now, after that relationship, what is life like on the other side of that equation for your customers? So telling that story of the before and after resonates with your buyers. And then ultimately, can you truly differentiate yourself from all the other competitors in the marketplace? Not just table stakes. What are those key differentiators between you and the others that you compete against on a regular basis? What makes you different? What makes you stand out? What's that uh, um, list of characteristics that position you from the others in the marketplace? These become your battle cards, if you will, for your sales team of how they can position themselves between others in the marketplace by telling good, solid sales stories that resonate with their buyers. And you can attract more of your ideal clients that are just like your top 20. Number nine, sales goals. Now, there's a lot of companies that really don't have clearly defined sales goals, even today. Quite frequently, we'll hear, we want to grow by 10% over last year. Well, why 10%? How are we going to do that? Well, we haven't really fleshed that out too much. But company goals should be both from a company level and then cascade down to teams and individuals. Break this out between new and existing customers or even by product. But as you set goals as an organization, both at the high level, the company level, and also the individuals, how are we going to measure our progress against those goals? What are the key things that we're going to focus on to make sure that we're on the right path? Without the key metrics, it would be like running or training for a marathon, as an example, right? We know it's 26.2 miles. We know that's what we have to complete at the end. But my training program for that marathon would just be haphazardly running a bunch of different mileage increments along the way, hoping that when I get to race day, I'm going to be ready to compete and ready to finish that race. I don't know about you, but that's really not the way that I would train if I'm wanting to complete a marathon like that. But having clearly defined leading and lagging indicators that help your team make sure that you're on the right path. It gives you the ability to also make changes where necessary. If you're measuring those mileposts, those guideposts, those mileage markers along the way, you can see, are we doing things that need to be done to make sure that we're going to accomplish those goals, or do we need to make some adjustments and modifications to our strategy and plan? These need to be both activity based and result based. Think about it in the terms of how many meetings do our salespeople need to have each day or each week? How many proposals need to be sent? How many of those do we need to win? What's our pipeline looking like? Are we measuring our progress against those goals and sharing those goals amongst everybody? It's not fair to understand what our goals are or the expectations that we have if we don't actually share those amongst the whole team. Let the team be prepared For race day, let them know what that goal is, that 26.2-mile marathon, what that's going to look like, and what we need to do each and every day to make sure that we're trained, we're ready to go. So when it comes race time, we can finish the finish line where we want, not being exhausted at mileage number 12 because we just didn't train properly. So, what are the activity, both leading and lagging indicators that help us down the path? Break those down into weekly, monthly, quarterly increments and share those, evangelize those across the team. In doing so, you'll see clear understanding amongst your whole organization. All right, number 8, meetings. Now I know this is in today's world, meetings can be overly used, but I think having a clear understanding in a case like this is having both team meetings and individuals. Let's talk about team meetings here for a second. Team meetings should apply to topics that are understood and needed by all. Many times I'll see leaders run a meeting and all of a sudden we go down a rabbit hole about one specific rep or a specific deal that somebody's working on, and everybody else kind of zones out during that time frame. Now, unless you're focusing that as a teaching moment for the organization, I would say stay away from a specific scenario that only is applicable to that one rep. Make sure that the agenda for your sales meetings as a whole apply to the whole audience. A good rule of thumb, those team meetings should last between 30 and 60 minutes. Most organizations are running team meetings on a weekly cadence, but you'll find what cadence works best for your organization. Now, next, individuals. Now, individual one-on-one meetings give the opportunity to help coach and develop your sales team in a one-on-one basis. Now, it's on occasion, these will have to go into a compliance. If a rep is not necessarily hitting the metrics or struggling in a specific area, you may have to have that type of meeting. But most of the time, these meetings really need to be focused on what can we do as leaders to help develop that rep, help position those deals for success, and allow them to accomplish their goals. They'll appreciate that type of meeting. Have a regular reoccurring cadence to these meetings so you can plan and prepare around that, and people know exactly what's expected of them and they can schedule their meeting, their days and their weeks accordingly. But one-on-one meetings are around coaching, mentoring, and developing those individual reps. Please review the notes as a leader before you come into those meetings that are in their CRM system. Come in well prepared. If we want people to really adhere to kind of the process and the roles of CRM systems and things along those lines, well, then we need to investigate and come prepared to those meetings by reviewing the status of what we could find elsewhere, and we can come forth and have a good, productive conversation. But coaching and training are the process for the one-on-one meetings. How do we see how our training is actually being applied? Getting out in the field with our team. It's surprising to me how rare it is for leaders to be in the field with their salespeople to actually witness and see things in an unfiltered view of how the training that we're providing to folks is actually being applied. Do we need additional help and support in other areas? But being out in the field will allow you to then see where you can help support them for success even more so. So team meetings, that's 60 or 30 to 60 minutes, individual one-on-one meetings around coaching and mentoring, all with clearly defined expectations that we saw in that previous slide will help create that culture of accountability that you're looking for in your organization. Number 7, sales process, a clearly defined and understood sales process. Now, the important components here is you need to determine not just your sales process, but make sure that that's overlaid with your buyer's buying process. And if you have a clearly mapped buying process that matches your sales process, now you're on to a common understanding of what needs to happen. So it's not just step by step or stage by stage, but what has to happen for those opportunities, those deals to move from one stage to the next. What has to happen both from your buyer as well as your sales rep to be able to move things forward in a common, understood, agreed upon process. This provides a foundation for a common language to be used all throughout the organization, These gates that will have to be passed through for deals to move from one stage to the next allows that your process is being not only adhered to, but it's understood by all. So that way, as an example, you have a deal in the proposal phase that your reps have stepped through all of the other discovery, qualification, presentation, as an example, phase before it got to that proposal phase. It eliminates that, well, so and so sells by just simply meeting with somebody and giving them a proposal. That proposal has a chance to close, but it's a much different chance to close than if you had a discovery, qualification, and a bunch of other gates that got to. Both are in the proposal phase, but they reflect two different likelihoods of closure. So making sure that your team is following a agreed upon written process that has common gates, both from a buyer and a sales rep, that have to be passed through in order to move forward, will allow you to have insights to your organization and clarity to probabilities of closure in a pipeline. That common language is the critical aspect and the byproduct of this. So written, defined, agreed upon sales process is a key component here. This also, as we'll talk about here in a few minutes, should be built into your CRM system. So you have the right kind of visibility in Windows. Little foreshadowing there. Number 6, sales training. Now, sales training really needs to be customized to the individual rep. It's very rare that all of your team needs the exact same type of training. So, an example here, I'll hear things quite frequently of my team struggling with closing. Well, that might be the case in some aspects. But if you look into what is contributing to their low closing percentage, it might be that they're doing poor needs analysis or discovery meetings much earlier in your sales process. So training on and developing the skill set around fact finding or needs analysis can contribute to a higher likelihood of close later on in that sales process. So if you look at sales training, what actually needs to be done from your team, look at it from both prospecting, needs analysis or fact finding, needs discovery components, to presentations, to negotiating and closing. It should be all encompassing. But understand, by witnessing how it's being applied in the marketplace is a key indicator for you as a leader to be able to see, where does my team, where does my rep need more focus. So spend time out in the field listening and seeing how this training is being applied. Now, I know role play is is one of those phrases that a lot of people just really don't like, but there's not anything better to conducting to see how training is actually being applied and how it's resonating in a role play scenario. So practicing that in one-on-one meetings, in your coaching meetings, and those opportunities, and even if it does apply to the broader audience in your sales team meetings, those role plays give you the opportunity to test that before it's actually going forth in the marketplace itself. So spend time with your team, understand what that all-encompassing training focus should actually look like and be, and then role play it to make sure that it's being effective the way that you want. Technology. Now, this is a topic that's with the advancements with AI, that has continued to gain more and more and more momentum. But first, before we get into some of that technology, let's think about something like your CRM system, a customer relationship management tool. It is surprising on how many businesses today still are not leveraging a CRM tool of any sort. CRM systems are there for common repository of information. So all have access to information that would be helpful and valuable to your reps and others within your organization at the time and when they need it most. So using a CRM system in that regard will prepare you and your organization to have access to information that's going to help move deals forward. Think about it also in the case where if you do have turnover and a rep leaves, if all that information is in the rep's head, what's the risk that just happens in that scenario? Is all of that information goes out the door when you have turnover as well. So having that repository of the history of the information that's needed, as well as the proactive resource to give your team the tools that they need, the information they need rather, at the time they need it. A CRM system is a critical tool in this aspect. Think about it one step further with other technologies. How can we make our team more efficient, more effective? The use of AI in the sales process, or the use of AI in prospecting. How do we leverage on scale potential prospects or buyers that are looking for our needs, our products, our services, and how can we connect with them in a much more effective, efficient manner? How do we leverage AI as it relates to forecasting and qualification of deals in a more robust manner? Can we utilize chat functions to help with content creation in a much easier, more predictable manner, much more professional in many cases? How do we leverage AI through other platforms like LinkedIn to where we can connect with people, our buyer personas, or other organizations in a much more effective way? But the use of AI, and there's a lot of different tools that are out there, are really key components to help make your team much more effective, much more efficient, and much more prepared. Let's think about something as simple as a note taking app. Note taking apps are very common with so many virtual platforms today, but using a note taking app to help funnel that information into a CRM system. You can use a note taking app as an example as a leader to help find training opportunities. Who did most of the talking in the meeting? What was the balance? What were the key words? What was stated? What wasn't stated? The use of something like a note-taking app, the AI note-taking app, can bring efficiencies in making sure that you're ensuring getting your notes into the CRM system the way that we're talking about, but also identifying those training opportunities for your sales team. And that's just one example. And there's many examples that are out there. How about video, the use of video, the creation of avatar-related video aspects to help both in a information, maybe a marketing function, as well as sales reinforcement throughout that buying process itself. But can you utilize AI generated video creation to help your salespeople in that capacity? And then how about a platform like KnowledgeNet.ai that helps with relationship mapping, that helps with identifying and connecting with your buyers in the relationships that already exist in a much more robust, effective manner? So utilizing technology from something like your CRM system all the way through the sales process, bringing technology and understanding technology into your business to help your salespeople be more effective and efficient is a critical step for us to move forward as an organization today. So where does it fit in your company, your organization? There's a lot of different opportunities, but I would challenge you, start small, but look at ways that you can bring information, tools to scale to your organization and leverage technology starting today. How does this come together in the formulation of a sales playbook? Now, sales playbook, a written document that helps your sellers understand all of the things that we've talked about up until this point in this presentation. Who are my ideal clients? What are those key differentiators between me and the others in the marketplace? How do I articulate and ask the questions that I need to ask from state to move an opportunity from stage to stage? But bringing that full circle into a playbook is a critical tool that helps not only from an efficiency standpoint, but actually in onboarding and developing of even new reps. They understand how you as an organization are going to sell. It eliminates this is the way that I do it. Doesn't make us clones of one another. We still have personalities sprinkled into our sales process, but understanding this is the way our organization is going to position ourselves in the marketplace and how we as an organization are going to be able to move our business forward and differentiate ourselves from all the others that are out there. What is that value proposition that really resonates? And this is time tested and refined as an organization. Now, as your sales team adds their own personality on top of that, now they're running the sales plays the way that they need to. So having a written, documented sales playbook is a critical step to help not only from an efficiency standpoint, but to bring training, clarity, and onboarding of new reps in a much more timely manner too. Allow them to get up to speed in producing and gaining new clients the way that you want them to. So sales playbook, bringing this all together into a written document is another critical key step for you. All right, number three, right people, right seats. There are a lot of different ways to structure a company's sales teams. Should that team structure to maximize results be one of hunters or farmers, inside sales teams, outside sales teams? How do you align to leverage knowledge and experience and expertise? Do you align that based on certain named accounts or a size of account? Do you align your sales team based on a geographic territory or a product or service offering, or perhaps a vertical market? So your reps can speak to knowledge and experience and credibility and expertise, sales stories that they're familiar with in a way that allows your salespeople to be positioned properly to have credibility and trust within their ideal clients, their buyers, their buyer personas. So how do you structure that team? A lot of times I hear business owners say, I just need a salesperson. And they're not necessarily in that situation, in that response, looking at what type of salesperson, what type of role, what is that clear structure of my organization so I can make sure I'm putting the right people in the right seats. Let me give you an example. I had a company that I was interacting with. They had a new business and existing business structure. So for this scenario, we'll call it an account executive, new business, account manager, existing business, retention and expansion. That was their structure, AEs and AMs. They had a rep sitting in the AE seat that was an average performer, closed a decent amount of new business, but it was always a struggle and it was just average at best. But what we understood with that rep was he had all of the right characteristics to make him a successful salesperson: the ego drive, the resilience, the assertiveness, good communication, all these different aspects that were there in the DNA. But where the struggle was around prospecting. Just really was not wired to continuously prospect for new business. And in that role, that's going to present a little bit of a challenge. So understanding that person's will and skill, we actually moved him into an account manager role. And that account manager went on to be the top performing account manager in the entire company because all of those same skill sets still applied to be a successful salesperson. And it was just being applied to an organization that already had that familiarity with the company, that already had some of the trust that was built. And now they can go ahead and strengthen that, retain it, and grow that business even further. So making sure that you think of and see and interview towards having the right people in the right seats based on the role and the structure that you put in place. And all of this translates to, do we have lower turnover? Do we have lower turnover because people are just misaligned? And when you have the right structure, you can then make sure you have the right accountability as well. Compensation plans. Now, this is a very common challenge that I'll find with businesses. Do we have the right type of reward system based on what we want to have happen in our organization? So many times this will play out with, I want my salespeople to do this, but they always seem to want to do that. Many times that's rooted in the compensation plan. Now, I'm a big fan of creating a win-win situation, and we'll talk about that here in just a couple seconds. But the how that compensation plan is structured is also another critical part. I, for one, like a 50-50 split of variable or salary in, I'm sorry, variable as in fixed in salary. So, right, which is compensation, commission, and salary. Maybe based on industry or sales cycle, it could be a 60-40 or 40-60, but somewhere in the middle, that balance between salary and variable compensation is a critical step. The variable is now down to the reward system that we're talking about. If we want to incentivize new business, that probably needs to be rewarded at a different level than sales to existing clients, right? If people are going to be motivated based on money, we need to reward the behaviors that we're looking for. And so in this case, that win-win, lose-lose, we need to make sure that the design of your compensation plan allows the salesperson to go make the most they can possibly make while that translates to success for the company. Because that's what a salesperson is going to do. We're, by all purposes, coin operated and money motivated. So if you have a well thought out plan that allows somebody to look at that compensation plan and say, how can I go generate the most amount of money as a salesperson possible? And it's a win-win, the company's going to win, the salesperson's going to win. So making sure that you're rewarding the right types of behaviors. Again, that big split between what is salary and what is a variable compensation is a critical component of that. So you can attract the right types of people to your organization, and it's a rewarding and inspirational plan that's there. These also need to be updated on a regular basis. So many times business owners will hire somebody based on a compensation plan and really not revisit that year after year. So focusing on what behaviors do we want to see from our salespeople, being able to bring that win-win situation to the forefront with that compensation plan, and then revisiting it on an annual basis. Doesn't mean you're going to make changes to it, but it should be revisited and, where applicable, updated to make sure it aligns with the goals and the expectations from that company for that next year, that next fiscal year. And the best practice here is always have that in writing and signed. It takes the confusion out of those situations altogether. So bringing that back full circle, understanding what is the behaviors that we want to see from our salespeople, and making sure that we have a written document that's agreed upon, that a salesperson can see not only what I do at quota, but if I exceed quota, what can I make? What can I do? What's my earnings personally going to look like? And that translates to success for the company as well. So build a comp plan with the right behaviors. And then number one, last but not least, proper sales management. Now, the critical component thing here is, what does your company truly need for growth? What type of experience do you need from your sales leader? Are you designing your strategy and building your structure for that growth? That might be an executive level experience factor that you're needing. Are you looking for accountability in management and training and coaching opportunities? That might be a different level of sales leader. But understanding what type of person do you need in that role to help lead sales is a critical step for your organization. Does that leader have the bandwidth to consistently be meeting with their sales team individually and collectively? Do they have that growth mindset that you're looking for and needing within your company? All critical steps to see who is properly leading sales and what type of experience factor is necessary to help your organization grow and prosper. How are we going to recruit and bring on new people into this equation? And what does that onboarding process actually look like? So as you start to evaluate, where do you need focus within your company? How are you going to build a structure for growth and success? How are you going to implement some of the areas that we've been talking about here today? That'll help define what type of leader you need to have in that sales seat. But bandwidth is a key component of this. Experience is another key component. Salespeople, sales leaders understand the sales DNA, and they can help position your organization for success. So many of these topics today could have impacted Joe's business, could have kept him out of the situation that he found himself in. Hopefully, if you go ahead and apply many of these topics here today that you've seen to your organization, define those for your organization, you'll go forth and prosper the way that you look to as well. If you'd like to download some of our free samples here, please scan that QR code, and that's going to help you with some of the information that you saw here today as an additional resource for some of these top sales drivers. Additionally, if you'd like to be connected to some of our Sales Acceleration teammates, if you'd like to be in contact with somebody locally to help you continue this conversation, to be a resource, to help you with some of that expertise and the things that we talked about here today, Please scan this QR code, and we'll be happy to connect you with the team of local experts to help you down the path to build your path to success, to build your road to success, and happy to help and serve in any which way. Thank you very much, and have a great day.